It started with a simple welcome to the neighborhood basket, fresh-baked muffins from the local Publix, a bottle of cheap Cabernet, and a handwritten note wishing the new guy next door all the best in our quiet suburb of Orlando, Florida. I was 26, fresh out of a messy divorce, and had just bought my first home, a cozy two-bedroom ranch in a gated community called Sunset Pines, where palm trees swayed lazily and kids rode bikes until dusk. The American dream, right? Palm Beach County vibes without the price tag. But that dream turned into a nightmare the moment Rick Harlan rolled up in his rusty Ford F-150, blasting heavy metal at volumes that could wake the dead. Little did I know, this wasn't just a noisy neighbor, this was a war waiting to happen. And when push came to shove, my revenge wasn't loud or violent. It was a whisper of ingenuity that sent him packing before the sun rose. They say hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, but in suburbia, it's the quiet ones you gotta watch. My name's Mia Thompson, and I'd moved to Sunset Pines to start over after my ex, Chad, left me for his yoga instructor. I was done with drama, or so I thought. The house was perfect, pastel yellow siding, a screened-in porch for sipping sweet tea, and a backyard big enough for my rescue dog, Buster, to chase squirrels. The community was tight-knit, full of young families and retirees who waved from their golf carts. HOA meetings were about potlucks, not problems. Then Rick arrived. He was in his late 40s, a burly construction worker with a beer gut and a perpetual scowl, fresh from some backwoods town in Georgia. His truck's exhaust fumes choked the air, and by day 2 his parties raged until 3 a.m., booming bass from subwoofers, laughter echoing like hyenas, and the stench of barbecue smoke wafting into my bedroom window. At first, I tried the neighborly approach. Knocked on his door with a smile, introduced myself over the fence. Hey, Rick, I'm Mia next door. Mind turning it down after 10? Some of us have early shifts. He leered at me, eyes lingering too long on my sundress. Sweetheart, this ain't the Ritz. Lighten up. That set the tone. Complaints to the KSHA went nowhere. Rick charmed the board president, a fellow good old boy, with stories of his hard-working life. Police? They showed up once, cited noise ordinances, but Rick just cranked it louder the next night, yelling obscenities about nosy bitches. My sleep suffered, dark circles under my eyes at my job as a graphic designer for a local ad firm. Buster whimpered at the vibrations. Friends suggested moving, but hell no, this was my home, my fresh start. I wasn't running. The escalation was gradual, like a pot simmering to a boil. Rick's dog, a massive Rottweiler named Brutus, started using my lawn as his personal toilet. I'd find presents every morning, steaming in the Florida humidity. When I confronted him, he laughed. Dogs gotta go somewhere, darling. Then came the trash, overflowing bins spilling beer cans onto my driveway. His buddies parked in my spot during football Sundays, blocking my garage. One night, after a particularly rowdy gathering, I found my mailbox smashed, accidental, backing up, he claimed. The HOA fined him a measly $50, which he paid with a smirk. Whispers from other neighbors revealed his history, evictions from 2 prior rentals for similar antics. He was a bully, preying on the community's politeness. I documented everything. Photos on my phone, timestamps of noise at 2 a.m., videos of Brutus mid-squat, screenshots of ignored emails to the HOA. But legal routes were slow, lawsuits in Florida could drag for months, and I didn't have the cash for a lawyer post-divorce. That's when the idea sparked, not revenge in the hot-blooded sense, but a calculated trap, using his own vices against him. I remembered a story from my college days at the University of Florida. A psych professor lecturing on behavioral conditioning, how you could manipulate environments to force change. Mix that with my design skills and a dash of tech savvy from online forums, and the plan formed. It would be ingenious, invisible, and utterly legal, mostly. Phase 1. Observation. I installed discrete ring cameras around my property, one on the porch, another overlooking the shared fence, all feeding to my app. For weeks, I watched Rick's patterns. He worked irregular shifts, coming home late, cracking open Bud Lights by 8 p.m. His parties peaked on weekends, drawing a crowd of roughnecks from his job site. Brutus was left chained outside, barking incessantly. But the key? Rick was paranoid about government overreach, ranted about it on his Facebook, which I stalked anonymously. He hated rules, despised the HA, and had a thing for conspiracy theories. Perfect fodder. I started small, planting seeds of doubt. Using a burner email, I sent anonymous tips to the county code enforcement about suspected violations at his address. Nothing false, just amplified truths about noise and trash. Inspectors showed up, poking around his yard. Rick flipped out, yelling at them from his porch. "This is harassment," he'd bellow. I overheard him muttering about snitches in the neighborhood. Paranoia rising. Next, I befriended the HOA board, subtly baked cookies for meetings, volunteered for the newsletter, slipped in casual mentions of Rick's antics, gathering allies without seeming vindictive. The suspense built like a Hitchcock film. Every night, I'd lie awake, heart racing at his music, plotting the next move. Then came the tech twist. I discovered ultrasonic devices online, those high-frequency emitters designed to deter pests. Harmless to humans over 25, frequencies above 20 kHz fade with age, but audible to younger ears and animals. Rick, at 48, wouldn't hear a thing but Brutus? It'd drive the dog nuts. I ordered a few, disguised as garden ornaments, and placed them along the fence. Activated via app, they'd emit bursts during his quiet hours. Sure enough, Brutus started howling randomly, pacing the yard. Rick chalked it to coyotes at first, but the dog's distress grew. Vet bills piled up. I saw the invoices in his trash. Yes, I snooped. Revenge requires dirt. But that was just foreplay. The real trap involved his prized possession, that F-150. Rick loved his truck like a child, waxing it every Sunday, revving the engine to show off. Florida's humid summers breed mosquitoes, and our community had strict rules on standing water. I noticed his backyard had a kiddie pool for Brutus, always half-filled and stagnant, a breeding ground. Anonymously, I reported it to the health department as a West Nile risk. Inspectors fined him, but he ignored it, dumping the water half-heartedly. Here's where ingenuity peaked. Using my graphic design software, I created fake official letters, not forged government docs. That'd be illegal, but community alerts, mimicking HOA stationery. Printed on quality paper from Staples, they warned of imminent vehicle inspections for environmental violations, citing Florida statutes on emissions and fluid leaks. I slipped one under his door at midnight, heart pounding in the shadows. The letter claimed his truck was flagged for hazardous leaks based on anonymous drone surveillance, playing into his conspiracy fears. It demanded he bring it to a certified inspector by week's end or face towing. Rick bit hard. The next day, I watched on camera as he inspected his truck frantically, crawling underneath, cursing. He even called a mechanic buddy over. Paranoia in overdrive. But the masterstroke? I hacked his routine digitally. Rick used a smart home app for his garage door. I'd seen the brand on his key fob. Public Wi-Fi vulnerabilities are a thing, with tutorials from Reddit's r/hacking, ethically of course. I set up a spoofed network from my house, mimicking the community's free Wi-Fi. When he connected, I gained access, not to steal, just to tinker. Late one night, as he slept off a bender, I remotely opened his garage door, letting it creak wide. Then, using another ultrasonic burst, I agitated Brutus, who bolted inside, knocking over shelves of tools and paint cans. Chaos ensued. Paint spilled across his truck's interior, tools scattered. He woke to the mess, convinced it was sabotage. "Someone's out to get me," he ranted to his friends the next day. The spilled paint? It reacted with a leak I'd simulated earlier, a harmless mix of oil and dye from AutoZone, dripped under his truck while he was at work, gloves on, no traces. It looked like a major engine failure, staining the driveway. Panicking, he called a tow truck, thinking it was the inspectors coming early. But in his haste, he forgot about the open beer cans inside. Florida's open container laws are strict. The climax hit like a summer thunderstorm. That night, his party raged louder than ever, a desperate show of defiance. But I tipped off the cops anonymously about underage drinking. Not true, but his crowd looked young. When sirens wailed, Rick freaked, hiding evidence. In the scramble, someone knocked over a grill, starting a small fire in his yard. Fire department arrived. Inspectors followed for code violations. The leak was discovered, leading to environmental fines. His truck was impounded for safety checks. Brutus was seized temporarily by animal control for neglect, after vets noted stress symptoms. By dawn, Rick was done. Suitcases in his truck, post-impound release, he peeled out, middle finger raised. The house went up for sale within days. Turns out, he was renting, and the owner evicted him for damages. Sunset Pines sighed in relief. Potlucks resumed without bass thumps. I sipped tea on my porch, Buster at my feet, watching the for sale sign sway. Revenge isn't about destruction, it's about restoration. My home was mine again, peaceful under the Florida sun. And if you're dealing with a neighbor from hell, remember, the best traps are the ones they walk into themselves. Sweet dreams, Suburbia.